Heyers! Welcome to the ZedKraze Show, the first episode of the ZedKraze Show, which is a talk show, which we haven't done before. Normally we're streaming the games and stuff like that. We do a bit of talking in that and all, but, you know, this is the first time we've done a talk show. So, yeah, this is the ZedKraze Show. With a theme song made up about 2 minutes before I went to stream. So that's why it's as basic as it is. But maybe that's all we need. Maybe all we need is the basics for this. Sorry for the delay for starting the show, staring at the title screen for a while. I was just trying to make sure that it looked like we were actually streaming because, yeah, it wasn't looking like that at the time. But yeah, we're here. It seems to be all doing the things that it's supposed to do, I guess. So, yeah, we are going to be talking a lot about games. It's pretty straightforward. That's what the ZedKraze Show is going to be about. I've been meaning to do extra streams for a while now. Yeah, now this is the way I thought I'd go about it. Is we do the Sunday night streams, we do the Wednesday night streams, and now on probably Friday nights, most times at around 7 p.m, most weeks, I'm going to be doing this, which is the ZedKraze Show. How long will this show be? Who knows? Knowing how much I waffle, a very long time, but hopefully not too long that you decide to disconnect from the internet completely. I'm expecting somewhere between the range of about half an hour to 2 hours, depending on how much news we've got to talk about this week. But of course, this episode 1 is a special one. That's part of the reason why I wanted to start this week. I only decided earlier this week, that's how I'll do my third stream each week. I'll do it as a talk show. But I thought, oh, maybe it's a bit too quick to start it up this week. But it's Gamescom week. Gamescom, one of the biggest gaming events of the year, definitely for Europeans. So, yeah, what better way to start off the ZedKraze Show than start off with a special on Gamescom? Well, I guess it's not a special on Gamescom, but I just mean that we have a lot of news that came out of Gamescom. Now, granted, a lot of that news is just rehashes of E3 stuff, and we'll get into that later on in the show. But yeah, so we're going to be talking a lot about Gamescom stuff and a little bit other stuff because QuakeCon was also on this week and that as well. So there's a lot of game news this week. So it's a perfect way to start off the show. Now, hopefully in the future, we'll expand this a bit further, maybe do some interviews or some talk back with other people and that. And of course, if you are actually watching this live right now on Twitch, you can interact with the ZedKraze Show. You can ask questions. You can say what you think about the news that we're talking about. Like, are you excited about this game? Do you hate that they're doing this DLC for that game? All that sort of stuff. So if you're watching this on Twitch, you're watching it as live, interactive sort of experience. But if you are watching an archive version, which will be on YouTube in a couple of days after the show airs, then obviously you can't interact with it. But of course, you can watch it back like as if it's a vodcast or something. So that's what I'm trying to do here. A bit of a live, interactive sort of gaming news wrap-up of the week show. But also something that can be live and interactive on a live stream on Twitch on Friday nights from 7 p.m. a Western time. But also, yeah, a vodcast, which I might even find a way to export it as a podcast as well, maybe. We'll see how we go. This is going to be a bit of a rough start, no doubt. We've got a little screen up there, which way I'm pointing there, because I flipped the camera around back to the right way. So we do have a little bit of title screen and stuff like that, but eventually it'd be good to have, actual graphics coming up for the various things we're talking about, but that is very time consuming, so we'll have to see how we go with that. But yes, welcome Kid Chaos, welcome back to the ZedKraze stream, and welcome to the first ever ZedKraze show. Yeah. Anyway, enough waffling about what is this show going to be all about. Let's just get into it, see how it goes. I'm looking forward to doing this sort of thing. I used to do community radio shows and that many years back, so this is kind of, I guess, going to be, yeah, a bit more like that. You know, it's not going to be any gameplay tonight or anything like that. We're just going to be talking games and talking about the news of this week. So, what better way to start off is with Gamescom? Um, now, probably the big. There wasn't really much in the way of big conferences necessarily, other than Microsoft had one, and I believe EA also had one as well. I didn't really follow that too much, but I did check out, yeah, the Microsoft conference for sure. So what was actually shown at Microsoft conference? Well, this was Microsoft's real big last sell point in a way, like for the, or maybe not the last sell point, you know, but Xbox One X is only a couple of months away, and they really need to show some more stuff to kind of really get people excited about wanting to buy one of those. I don't think they really did it though. But let's go break down what they actually showed. So we saw an Assassin's Creed, the new Assassin's Creed game that's coming out. They showed a CG trailer, so not any more gameplay, just a new slick, fancy looking sort of CG trailer. I'm not that much of an Assassin's Creed fan to the point that I haven't actually even played one yet. And I know there's about 20 of them out there now. The only one that ever tempted me was actually Black Flag, and that was purely for the point that you could do pirating and stuff, you know, like pirates. Yeah, this one, you know, obviously, Ubisoft had taken a year off or two to produce this new one. Before it was pretty much a yearly franchise, but they realized, okay, this might be getting a bit stale. We'll need to take a break and have a think about how we're going to approach this into the future. So one would think that the new Assassin's Creed game is going to be hopefully a vast improvement over the past ones. And I'm not saying that as if the previous ones were bad games, but yeah, that's what you would think if they've taken an extra year or two to work on this one compared to previous ones. I mean, that's not really saying much because a lot of games range between 3 to 5 years in development time usually. But I imagine with the Assassin's Creed games and other yearly style franchises like that, that they have multiple studios working on different games, so that, yeah, this one comes out, but another studio is already working on the next one prior to that. So they probably do work on them for a couple of years or so, no doubt. Sure, the formula's already there, the engine's really there, but they do have to model up all these new locations. And obviously this one's based in Egypt, and they did show Cleopatra and some other historical figures in this. So yeah, they're bringing out the big names, if you will, the ones that they don't have to pay any royalties on. So yeah, Assassin's Creed CG trailer. At least it was something new that we hadn't seen before, like wasn't just a repeat of what we saw at E3, which we did see quite a bit of gameplay at E3. But yeah, I don't know if that's enough to get anyone more excited about the game if they weren't already. So yeah. Next up was PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, a game that we regularly stream on the ZedKraze stream. Now, probably was hoping to get some good news here, like some new news. But it wasn't really much. There wasn't really much news at all, actually. There wasn't any news, I don't think, at all, really. Well, at least in the Microsoft conference. It was just pretty much PlayerUnknown coming out, being interviewed and saying, yeah, it's coming to Xbox soon, but we don't actually even know when. And they didn't really announce any new features. Though, over the past week, there has been an announcement. Instant replays of kills that you can do through NVIDIA's, what's it called, Shadow Play, I think it's called. That is obviously something new, but it does sound quite limited. That you, one, would probably have to have a NVIDIA card, which I do, but you'd have to be using yeah, NVIDIA's Shadow Play or whatever it's called to actually be able to use that. Now, of course, I'm sure people that get good kills, unlike me, will be quite excited about that, but it would be good to have that somewhat built into the game more so, or something that could be compatible with other software, like, you know, for example, the streaming software I use, like OBS. So, yeah, how useful that feature is going to be right now, I don't know. What I'm really waiting for is actually the opposite of that, which is where you actually get shown how you were killed, because it's one thing to have an action replay of a kill sort of thing, but I mean, if you're streaming your games anyway, you can kind of go back and clip your kills if you want to manually, if you really wanted to. But yeah, what I really want to see, and it's supposed to be a feature that's coming in, is seeing how I got killed, because often you could be just running along and then bam, done, and you have no idea where you're getting shot from. So I think that's going to be a real helpful feature, not only for learning, but also just out of interest, like I find it kind of funny when I get killed in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. It's like, oh, someone got me, whatever. Start again. That's the great thing about the game, is it doesn't feel too punishing, that when you die, it's just like, oh, we'll just play another game. It's not a big deal. But yeah, with the action replay, like, it'll satisfy that curiosity, I think, that a lot of people like myself would have as to what's actually happening to you in the game. And I think that will also help solve some of the doubts you might have when someone gets you from very far away. By assumption, like, I'm only assuming that someone keeps shooting me from a massive distance because I can't see them anywhere, but I'm getting shot. I often think, well, wait a minute, is this my own fault, or is this person cheating somehow? There is these hacks that you can get where it just locks onto other players from way across the map, and you just have to be basically pressing the trigger and start shooting them. With that sort of cheating available out there, I don't know how much they managed to crack down on that, but by having action replays, you should be able to see if it seems physically possible that someone could actually have been getting you. Like, if they're really far away, I mean, maybe they're an ace sniper shot or something like that, but I don't think, in many instances, if they're too far away, there must be some point where it's just like, okay, that's unrealistic. But then maybe there's already inbuilt software into that to pick that up as potential hackers. So anyway, so nothing new on the pub front yet, but obviously we have, other than that kill replay thing, but obviously we do have new features coming up. There is the new desert map. There's another snow map as well. Not another snow map, but a snow map. But that, I think, will be quite further down the track. It sounds like the desert map will be coming sooner. And we do have, as mentioned, those replays. We have the vaulting and like jumping through windows and that, which will totally change the gameplay. So that's going to be really interesting, and the animations look really nice of what we've seen so far. So there is some exciting stuff coming up for pub. I think pub was also announced as being published by Microsoft. So what that means for the game coming out on PlayStation maybe next year or something like that. Obviously, it's at least a timed exclusive for console on the Microsoft Xbox One. But one would think for a breakout game like this, it has to end up on PlayStation 4 as well at some point. Maybe next year, with a 6 to 12 month window or something like that. But it's not unheard of, I don't know if Xbox is ever going to catch up to PlayStation 4 as far as sales go. So Microsoft would be kind of just shooting themselves in the foot if they think, well, actually, maybe that could be their incentive. Maybe they could say you can only play pub on console via, the Xbox One. That could be finally, we're dying for exclusives on Xbox One. Not that I have one, but yeah, so a console exclusive of one of the most popular games in the world right now would be a big thing. But they also own the IP to Minecraft, and they have that on every console possible, and mobile and all that sort of thing. It's when Microsoft bought that off Notch and gang, they didn't suddenly go, okay, no more content for all the other console versions and that. No, they kept supporting all the consoles. They're promoting cross console play and all that. So I think Microsoft can see past themselves. So hopefully Microsoft publishing them will still mean hopefully coming out on PlayStation 4 next year sometime maybe. But who knows when or if it'll even happen. Kid Chaos says that Kid Chaos would like to see them fix the vehicle physics in pub. Yeah, I mean, The vehicles do feel like junk to drive around, but I almost feel like that's on purpose, to make, if they were too slick, maybe they'd become too much, the game would end up becoming too vehicle focused. I say this as someone who actually does play driving the cars all the time, like one of my, I generally, my plan pretty much is land away from everyone else as much as possible. Quickly try and get as much loot as I can in the nearby houses right there. And then after that, I stop looting pretty much. And I'm looking for a car. And then once I get in a car, I'm pretty much driving until the end of the game. So that's my gameplay. It's probably not a popular one. But yeah, so being able to handle the car better would be awesome for me personally. But I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know if they will do it. Yeah, because I almost feel like the crappiness of the driving is kind of part of it. So, but yeah, who knows? It wouldn't take probably too much to refine it, so maybe that will happen in future. Anyway, that's enough about PUBG. We could talk about that all night, and maybe one night we will do a ZedKraze show special on PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds specifically, perhaps. But let's move on to what else was at the Microsoft conference at Gamescom. There was a new Jurassic World Evolution game shown. I went into that a bit too casually. This wasn't actually a new game. I mean, most of the new games get announced at, E3 or PlayStation Experience, for example. Those are usually the big hitters for getting new game announcements and that. But this, Gamescom, not so heavy on the AAA or AA sort of games announcements, really. But yeah, this came out of nowhere. So it's called Jurassic World Evolution, and they showed a CG trailer, but it looked very much like gameplay. So I don't know. I mean, it might be just CG in the respect that, we haven't actually gotten the game mechanics all working yet, so we can't actually do a live demo of it. But it looked like it wasn't like some unrealistic, super shiny sort of thing that you don't think is going to be in the final version. But yeah, it's made by Frontier, who have made Elite, and I should have written this fully down. It's Roller Coaster Tycoon or something. Yeah. Anyway, a really successful roller coaster theme park simulator that was released a year or two ago, based on the classic series. And yeah, so this is kind of a bit similar to that roller coaster game in the respect that it's a world building sort of game. So it's like SimCity sort of style. So what you're going to be doing is building your own Jurassic Park, and that seems really cool. Like, it's a cool concept. I mean, as far as licenses go, there's many cheap and nasty ways to bring in licenses into games. But Jurassic World Evolution definitely sounds like a pretty cool concept. Whether it will be good or not, I don't know. But, you've got a quality developer behind them. And seeing how well that roller coaster game was received, because there's been quite a few different sort of roller coaster and theme park simulators in recent years that have generally been panned pretty bad by critics. But this one by Frontier was generally well received, and is actually probably a game that I'd like to try out myself sometime. But maybe I'll wait for Jurassic World Evolution. Now, from memory, I haven't actually got this written down, but I think it's not coming out till next year sometime. But still, that's not too far away, and it was good to get a completely unexpected announcement of a game like that. Speaking of which, I guess this is part of game news as well. A studio from my local area, where I'm from, Western Australia, has Battlestar Galactica Deadlock game coming out on the 31st of August, so only about a week away from when we're broadcasting right now. So if you're a Battlestar Galactica fan, or if you're a fan of the game Starhammer, which was their previous game, it's a sort of turn-based sort of strategy space game, then you should dig Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. So keep an eye out on that, for that. I'll just kind of link that in with the whole, I guess, Elite space game, but also the idea of getting a popular franchise and license and making it into a game that makes sense. And it makes sense, to make a sci-fi series game that's based, in a sort of strategy, sort of war, sort of realm. Planet Coaster. Thanks, Kid Chaos. That was the name of the game, not Roller Coaster Tycoon. Coaster Tycoon's another one. Yeah, Planet Coaster, that was the one. So while that game is called Planet Coaster, I do believe you do build like the whole theme park. It's not just about building roller coasters purely, but I guess that's a main feature of it, sort of thing, focusing on roller coasters. And this is why you should tune in live, because then you can correct me live and give me tips along the way while we're doing the ZedKraze show. Moving on, the next announcement, and this was also unexpected, but probably in a different sort of way. Microsoft announced the definitive edition of Recore. Now, Recore was an Xbox exclusive game that came out, I think, last year, maybe. And was it by maybe the developers of Mega Man or something like that, from memory? Anyway, it was from some semi-famous developers, at least, anyway. And yeah, so that game came out, I think, last year. It was exclusive for Xbox. Xbox, I think, were really hoping that it was going to sell some consoles, or help sell some consoles. And yeah, it wasn't very well received. But yeah, for some reason they thought, okay, well, we'll make a definitive edition of it, and that will make people want to buy it. Now, the good thing about it is that for the people that already own Recore, this is going to be a free update. So that's really good, because I think that would have really sucked for the people that did support this game, even though it wasn't well received. I hate when those early supporters get punished and miss out on a bunch of features. So that, I believe, might even be out now, because the notes I wrote on this were that it was going to be available in a week. So if it's not out now, it's probably out in a few days' time. And it's basically a remastered edition, which sounds crazy when it's only been out for like a year. But yeah, it's got a whole bunch of new features and that sort of thing. So if you were interested in Recore, maybe this might be the way to pull you in. I must admit, I was watching the trailers and that of it, and it was sucking me in a little bit, but not enough to want to slap some cash down on it, really. I mean, if I picked it up cheaply in a Humble Bundle, maybe, but yeah, because I do believe it is available on PC as well, because I don't have an Xbox, as I mentioned before. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, yeah, clearly it might be a grab to try and help make back some of the money that they invested into the game. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, it's a nice looking little game, so I feel almost sorry for it. So hopefully, it does get the attention it deserves, but I won't say it necessarily deserves it, because I haven't actually played it. So maybe it's a bad game. I don't know. It could be a bad game. If you have played Recore, let me know in the chat if what you think of Recore. So yeah, definitive edition coming out either this week or next week, and free for existing owners, and obviously monies for people who don't own it yet. They also announced crossplay for Rise of Nations between Steam and Windows 10. Now, I kind of read that out quite casually. That's actually quite huge news. I mean, I'm not sure if any or many games, at least, do sort of between Steam and Windows 10. Now, it's a weird thing to be saying Windows 10, because most people that will be using Steam may also have Windows 10 as their operating system. What we mean by Windows 10 is more so that it's being purchased through the Windows App Store sort of thing. So, so I guess the good thing about that is if you happen to purchase it through the store, but you feel left out because all your friends bought a game on Steam, now you can actually play with each other. And hopefully we're going to see more of that into the future, where it's not going to matter so much of what store you brought things from. You can still see each other's play, who's online, and play the game against other people. Because, every company seems to be coming out with their own digital storefront nowadays. And will they ever catch up to Steam? Probably not. But with so many different ones to log in. You got your Origin, you got your Uplay, GOG, yeah, Steam and Windows Store and all these others. I think crossplay is going to be a big important thing, especially with consoles as well. And obviously that's happening quite a bit now. And Microsoft did mention this week that they have been trying to speak to PlayStation about doing crossplay between Xbox and PlayStation 4. But PlayStation are in the winning seat. They have there's not much not much to gain for them if they say, yeah, we'll do crossplay, other than maybe not looking like jerks, you know? And I say this as a Sony fan. But, you know, when they've sold about 60 million consoles, while Xbox has only sold about half of that, you know, in many ways, by not allowing crossplay between the two major consoles, it further punishes Microsoft and gives PlayStation advantage, because, hey, they've got plenty of players for their players to be playing against, so they've got double the amount of players, so they don't necessarily need to be playing against Xbox players. But hopefully in a utopian world, you know, as much as I'm a Sony fanboy myself, you know, I'd rather just all the consoles be able to able to play against each other. So, you know, if my friend's Nintendo Switch, another friend's playing on an Xbox one player's playing on Steam, and one player's playing on PlayStation 4, they can all harmoniously play together somehow. Except for the Steam player may have an advantage if they're playing on keyboard and mouse, depending on the game. Yeah, so I don't think that's going to be happening soon, but Microsoft, with their sort of foot in both the console and PC world, I guess a bit more open to that, especially when they're a bit behind on the console wars. They're, I guess, trying to try anything out to kind of, you know, get forward, I guess. Now, what else was it announced? A new expansion for Halo Wars 2. I'm not sure if that was actually already previously announced or not, sort of thing, but they sure made it sound like it was a new announcement at least. They also mentioned that there was over 100 titles enhanced for Xbox One X, the new 4K or 4K-ish console coming out from Microsoft in a couple of months' time. So that's really good, because when PlayStation 4 Pro was released, I don't know if there was anywhere near that many titles that were enhanced for it. That said, the PlayStation 4 Pro did release basically a whole year before Xbox One X, so probably between that time and now PlayStation 4 Pro probably has 100 titles enhanced for it as well. Another expansion that was mentioned was World of Tanks War Stories. Not a game that I've played yet, much like Halo Wars 2, I haven't played either. I wouldn't mind trying out World of Tanks one day, maybe on the stream, on the ZedKraze stream, I might try it out one time. But yeah, so I know that's got a cult following, that game, so an expansion for that is no doubt good news for people into the tanks. Now, this was probably one of the big announcements, and not for me, like, personally or something like that, you know. It's more, yeah, I can imagine if you're a fan of this, that this is a big deal. And what it is an Xbox One S Minecraft limited edition console. Now, I wish I had, I eventually want to have like little pictures up there, but it's a lot of work to kind of get pictures instantly going up, and in one-man show here, so it's very hard to do all that. But it looks very cool. Like, you know, I used to play Minecraft. I played it for about 6 months or so. Yeah, I'm not an addict or anything like that. So, but I can imagine those who are addicted to Minecraft, this, you know, this would be a sweet piece to have in your living room. And the fact that it's for Xbox One S, I mean, I guess that makes it a lot more accessible for like kids and families to get that. I mean, if it was on the Xbox One X, then you probably wouldn't find too many of them being sold. So they made the right decision there. But yeah, it's really cool. They've kind of made it look like one of the pixel sort of grass blocks. And yeah, it's got also these special controllers. So there's a creeper controller, and there's also a pig controller. But the good news is if you already got an Xbox One S, or you don't want to be spending all that money just to get an Xbox One S because you already use something else like a PC or PS4, you can just buy the controllers by themselves separately as well. Both, I believe, both the Creeper, which actually comes with the Xbox One S limited edition console, but also the Piggy one, which is sold separately. And the good thing about that is, I guess, if you're a PC player, you could use that controller with your PC. I think you still would need a USB adapter. I'm not sure. I've only got a 360 controller for my controller games sort of stuff on PC. So that's good news for all Minecraft fans in a way. I have to admit it looked cool. So what I'm saying is, if I was more of a Minecraft fan, like I was like someone who played it daily, if I was a Minecraft streamer, for example, I would be seriously considering that if I didn't already have an Xbox One S. Moving along. There was a couple more things mentioned at the Microsoft conference. There was a new Shadow of War trailer shown. That's going to be quite a big game, I think, when it comes out. The first game was well received by critics. I didn't play it, but I must admit this second one looks really cool. I probably won't pick it up on release, but maybe it's the sort of game I might pick up if I see the right sale on it, sort of thing. It's not really so much my sort of game. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan or anything like that, but yeah, there was this really cool in the E3 trailer. This really cool. I don't know. What was he? An orc? Yeah, I think he was an orc. But he was like this Australian orc, and he had this real ochre accent to him and that. And yeah, he was pretty damn funny, which is actually quite rare in games, I find. I mean, I know humor's a bit of a personal thing, and it depends on what your humor is. And I often find I don't really necessarily get game humor, if you will. Like, I know that sounds weird to say that, but yeah, I find a lot of people, things that people like memes sort of stuff that people really get into on that. I'm often going, am I just old, or is this just not my humor? But yeah, that orc was really good, really solid. So they showed new trailers. So if you're looking to see some more of that game, go check out that trailer. And they also mentioned some other Xbox One S bundles, which I've got that on the same line as my Shadow of War notes. So I don't know if there's a Shadow of War bundle coming out. I probably should have written a bit more notes on that. See, when I was writing these notes, I wasn't necessarily going to be doing it on this show like this. I was going to do some sort of Gamescom wrap-up, but it wasn't necessarily going to be this. Sorry if my notes for this first episode of the ZedKraze show are not all up to scratch. But there was a lot announced at Gamescom. Yes and no, actually, because a lot of it has been rehashed sort of stuff we already knew about. There's a game coming out called Surviving Mars. They showed, I believe, a bit of that, and it's from the makers of City Skylines. Now, I can't remember if this has already been announced or not. I feel like it has, but yeah, it's not necessarily one that I've been following so much. But if it's by the makers of City Skylines, once again, a game I haven't actually played, but I have got on my wish list to play sometime. Many say City Skylines, the recent one, was better than SimCity, the quite controversial release a few years ago. It did look pretty cool. I'll keep an eye on that. Maybe instead of City Skylines, Surviving Mars might be more up my alley, because I do like my sci-fi and space and that, and future-based sort of stuff. So maybe Surviving Mars might be right up my alley. Then we also have the pre-order for Xbox One X. They finally announced the details for that. But what the pre-order actually is, I mean, Xbox have been known to do their day one editions. They did it with, I think, the original Xbox One X. Original Xbox One. I mean, these names, man, for the Xboxes they're challenging. I'll say that. and they've also had games that are like day one edition sort of thing. Now, instead of day one edition for Xbox One X, they're actually doing something a bit different. I'm guessing they were originally going to do a day one edition, but a lot of people really dug the name Project Scorpio, which was the code name for the Xbox One X before it was fully revealed. So what they've done is actually made a special edition Project Scorpio edition of the Xbox One X. And now that's obviously only going to be a limited version. It's available when it's released. Well, by pre-order. I don't think you'll be able to just walk into a store necessarily unless you're lucky to pick up one of those. So yeah, if you're one of the first people to get Xbox One X, you can choose to have the Project Scorpio edition. I mean, I don't know if you can actually choose to not have it, but I did read about someone that had a pre-order for Xbox One X already, just like a local game store that just chucked it up before Microsoft had made it official, and they asked them, would you like to change it to the Project Scorpio edition? So maybe there is a standard one, because it does look different. So perhaps you'll prefer the original style of the Xbox One X, but it has this sort of faded sort of gradient look to it, and it also has Project Scorpio written in the sort of Xbox green on the front. It doesn't have that cool sort of LCD screen that the dev kits had of the Project Scorpio dev kits. But the controller also has Project Scorpio written on it. Though I must admit, it looked like it was... I think it's just a layout of the controller, but it kind of looked like how Project Scorpio is written on the controller, that it was kind of a bit misaligned. So that might annoy you if you're playing and you're looking at your controller and go, oh, moved over a little bit. I don't know. But the actual console looked pretty cool with that gradient thing. So, you know, if I was buying an Xbox One X, I'd be looking to get that Scorpio edition. I mean, just the value of it alone, you know, as a collector, would no doubt be nice into the future. But yeah, it also, I think, looks better because it's not just a plain black box. It's got this nice sort of grey gradient going on, this sort of faded look that's really cool. So yeah, if you haven't already pre-ordered it, which opened up about 5 days ago, I think, when they did this conference, you may not be able to get it anymore. Who knows? I'm not sure what the actual numbers are like on that, but yeah, if you want one, I'd get onto that very quick. Now, what wasn't actually announced on the first conference they did, because they were broadcasting every day, and I wasn't following after the next day, but I did read about this later on, was the announcement of, and this has been kind of hyped at and hinted at since E3, because if you don't know, they're remastering Age of Empires, I think the original game. And they announced that at E3, and then they said back then, and we've got more Age of Empires news to share with you later on. And you know, I mean, what else could that mean? It mean a new Age of Empires game. And here you go, a few months later, at Gamescom, they have announced Age of Empires 4. Now, what did we see? Not much. It was just basically one of those sort of cut out 2D sort of cutscene style animations. CG trailers with voiceovers and stuff like that. No gameplay at all. So who knows what it's going to look like. I can't remember who was the game company behind it that's working on it, but supposedly they are good from what I've heard from people. So it could be in good hands. So if you're an Age of Empires fan, if you weren't already excited about having the remastered version of the original game, then you may be excited about Age of Empires 4 coming out. I believe that's coming out next year, or maybe there wasn't a date at all for that. That said, I was reading some people commenting that Age of Empires 3 was trash, basically. I don't know, I haven't played... I think I might have played the original Age of Empires, was it back in the 90s or something like that? But I haven't actually played any since. So, yeah, maybe if you were burnt by Age of Empires 3, maybe you're not too excited about the concept of Age of Empires 4, but, you know, if it's done by a different company and it's a different time, you know, fourth time lucky, as they say. No, they don't. So it wasn't just all about Microsoft at Gamescom. There are other bits and pieces I picked up from Gamescom for news and that. So there was a bit of new Overwatch news coming in. The main, I guess, bit of news was Junkertown, which is a new map set in Australia. Um, and yeah, it looks pretty cool. The map, bit Mad Maxy, and yeah, it's obviously based around Junkrat, but also they had the animated trailer that they had to show it off. Also involved Roadhog, or as I call him on the ZedKraze stream, Road Pig. Um, and yeah, so it was based around them two in the animated trailer. But the interesting thing was there was this point in the trailer where the voiceover goes, "They stole our lands," and that's in my country a little bit controversial to be talking about stolen lands and that, because if you do not know the history of Australia, the British kind of came over to Australia and basically stole the land from the indigenous people of the country, and just took over, and a lot of bad stuff happened, including killing indigenous people and that. And um, it's, as far as stolen lands goes, it's a bit of a touchy subject, really, and rightfully so. So I'm sure Blizzard didn't intend to be having something like that in the trailer for this Australia-based map, on purpose to purposely insult Indigenous people or anything in Australia. But it does seem a bit insensitive that I believe it has been brought to their attention, the issue with those lines in the trailer, and instead they almost seem to have made a joke out of it by actually saying, "We're sorry for being culturally insensitive about a road, like a sign that's in the actual map that says take out instead of take away," because in Australia we normally say take away, but I guess take out must be like a more American terminology for it. But I mean, that's fine and all, and but it seems like they're almost taking a dig that some people criticize them for being culturally insensitive to Australian Indigenous people, with the whole stolen lands commentary in the trailer. So I mean, it's one thing to maybe be a bit oblivious to the politics of a country that you're not based in. I could totally understand that if I was making a map of a country that wasn't where I'm based on, then maybe I won't know about the more intricate sort of side of things and that. But I always saw kind of Overwatch as this quite positive and culturally sensitive sort of game in many ways. Like it was very worldwide, very universal and that, and took a lot of traditional and cultural sort of references into their characters design and all that sort of thing. But I think they've generally, as far as I can tell, done it in a pretty respectful way. So, will many people pick up on this one or two lines in the trailer? And will anyone remember this trailer in, a couple of months' time? Probably not. But I just think it's a bit of a jerk move on Blizzard's part to then almost make a joke about it. So I mean, it's one thing to make a mistake, and they could have easily changed it. I mean, what would it do? Like they just quickly re-record a line in the trailer and re-upload it or something like that. Or just acknowledge and say sorry about that. Maybe I've missed an apology or something like that. But it purposely seems like they're trolling and being a jerk about it, basically, by saying, "Oh, sorry for being culturally inappropriate to Australia about a sign that's spelt wrong," or something like that, instead of actually recognizing the actual cultural insensitivity to the Indigenous people of Australia and their stolen lands. Anyway, so we won't get too political on all of that, but yeah, map looks cool, but maybe Blizzard need to, step up a bit, and for a game that's supposed to be all about sort of heroes and positivity and saving the world and that, maybe they should actually be good about that and actually do something about the way they've actually approached this and not be jerks about it, sort of thing. But hopefully, I mean, there is a little bit of hint that there's this queen in Junkertown that's kind of mentioned in the game, and I think that's a voice in the game. And maybe this is where maybe it's not so much of an issue because it just hasn't been revealed yet. But hopefully the queen is actually an indigenous character. Then the whole "they stole our lands" thing might actually not be as culturally insensitive as we originally thought, because it might actually be an indigenous person saying, "Hey, they stole our land," sort of thing. But yeah, the way that Blizzard approached that whole response to the sign thing, almost taking a dig at the idea that they were culturally insensitive, it does seem like that won't be the case. But I guess we'll see. It does seem like the Queen of Junkertown might be maybe a future character for Overwatch anyway, so I guess we'll see where we go from there. Other game news from Gamescom. Ruiner. If you haven't seen this game, it's being published by Devolver Digital. The infamous indie publisher who've published many games like my favorite game, one of my favorite games of all time, Always Sometimes Monsters, but plenty of other cool games as well. Ruiner is like this sort of cyberpunk, sort of futuristic, sort of really brutal looking, isometric looking game where it looks like it's a kind of a just a shooter game, dual shooter sort of game, whatever it is. It's very stylish. It's very like sort of Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez style, sort of Sin City, but cyberpunk future sort of thing. It's really cool, really looking nice. And I've been following it for probably about a year or two now. Finally, a release date has been mentioned. So Ruiner is coming out on September the 26th on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. Actually, I didn't actually realize it was coming to the consoles at first, so that's cool that it's coming out on all major platforms straight away. And it's looking cool as it's not really the sort of game I actually necessarily like. Like, the gameplay probably won't be the sort of gameplay I like, but it just looks so cool that sometimes I buy games purely on the aesthetic of it, and this will be one of them. And hopefully it doesn't disappoint on the gameplay point of view. It might be a really cool game to stream, actually, so I might actually end up streaming Ruiner. And I know Devolver are very pro people streaming their games, so I won't feel guilty about it. But one of the other cool things was Sidewalks and Skeletons, a sort of witch house sort of band or producer, was featured in the trailer. Because when I heard the music on that trailer, I was like, yeah, this is nice. I hope this soundtrack's as good as this. And it turned out to be this Sidewalks and Skeletons producer that I actually quite dig. I'm really digging the fact that more and more electronic music producers that I'm into are starting to get into either at least trailers or actually doing the soundtracks of many indie games. The biggest of which is Lorne, one of my favorite artists in the past 5 or 10 years. His music was featured on the soundtrack for the indie breakout of E3 2017, The Last Night. Which is coming out early next year. His music was not only featured in the trailer, but he's actually creating original music for the soundtrack, which is really super exciting. Even if I didn't want to play the game, I think the idea that the soundtrack's been done by Lorne really excites me, so can't wait till that comes out next year. Now, he was a surprise it kind of leaked a little bit through a German magazine, gaming magazine, before Gamescom started, but a new game called Biomutant. First time we got any hints of this. It's a new game from devs who were involved with Just Cause, and it's their new studio THQ Nordic. It's coming out next year supposedly, but I guess we'll wait and see, because this is the first we've seen of it. So does that mean it's not been in development for long, or does it mean that they've been like Fallout 4 and just kept things quiet before moving on? Telling people about it. So what it is, Biomutant's like an open world game. It's post-apocalyptic, and it's a kung fu fable. And we've not really seen much about it. There was a sort of CG trailer that looks like it could be pretty authentic to what the gameplay will be like as well, but it was this sort of almost Rocket Raccoon sort of style character, and there's also his friend, a grasshopper, which now I think about it's like, thank you, grasshopper sort of thing. That's maybe a real play on words there sort of thing with that. The main character looks pretty cool. Whether the game will actually be cool, I don't know. It sounds like it's very combat focused. So it's, I think one of the things it was really trying to push is the fact that it's really going to take things up a notch as far as the combat goes for the kung fu and all that, and the moves you can pull off. So I guess if that it's the focus. I don't know if I'll be so much into it if it's mainly focused around the combat, but if the world building they were kind of presenting in the trailer and still images that they've released is kind of the way they're going, like, yeah, it's definitely a game I'll be keeping an eye on. So yeah, that's on my watch list for next year for sure, and maybe it should be on your watch list as well. And then we've got a couple more bits from Gamescom. Final Fantasy 15. Now, this is a game I have not picked up yet. I have a weird relationship with Final Fantasy. I really dug Final Fantasy 7 back in the day on PlayStation 1, but I remember getting stuck at the end of the first disc because PlayStation 1 had Final Fantasy 7 on, I think it was 3 or maybe 4 discs, and I got stuck at the end of the first disc and never could get past it, so I just gave up with it. And then I think I did pick up Final Fantasy X with my PlayStation 2, maybe it was. I brought off a friend, I got that with it, and I just never played it. And I've never played a Final Fantasy game really since, to be honest. And part of the reason for that is that I don't like turn-based combat. And while I'm very much into anime myself, I'm very picky about that, and a lot of the storylines and that and the dialogue and that also seemed quite cheesy to me often. That the one thing you can't deny is the fantastical worlds that are made in Final Fantasy, and the graphics, you know, at least in the CG cutscenes, are top notch. I have played some demos of more recent Final Fantasy games. I think I played a Final Fantasy 13 demo. I found that clunky as. Final Fantasy 15 released a couple of demos recently, and I didn't mind those as much. The good thing about Final Fantasy 15 for someone like me is it's been made more accessible in the respect that it has pretty much action-based combat instead of menu-based combat. Now, for fans of the series, that's actually the thing that might put them off, and many people complain about that. But for someone like me, it's been the first time going, actually, maybe I do want to play Final Fantasy 15, even though I'm not that interested in watching a J-pop boy band road trip tour sort of thing. But there's, you know, it looks quite fantastical, but I have heard some bad reports about like the third chapter of it or something. But anyway, it's getting down to a point on PlayStation 4 price-wise, so it's kind of like, well, for how much game it's giving and that, maybe it's worth just giving it a spin and that for, you know, $25 or something like that. But now, it's coming to PC. So I was thinking I was going to end up getting it on PlayStation 4 because I thought, okay, well, this is kind of a console. Well, it's not console exclusive. It was exclusive to console, it seemed. Much like Red Dead Redemption and GTA seemed like. But then, well, Red Dead never came to PC. Hopefully a new one will. But there's still no hint that that's going to happen anytime soon. But the PC version of GTA 5 did actually come out eventually. But yeah, Final Fantasy 15, yeah, coming to PC, which was, after all this time, felt a bit unexpected. So it's coming in early 2018. It's going to include all the DLC, supposedly, and it's going to have a new, much like the GTA version on PC, a new first-person mode, which I've seen some footage of it, and I don't know, it just kind of seems a bit awkward. But hey, it's a bonus feature. You don't have to be in it, and supposedly you can switch between the two modes quite easily. So maybe there's moments where first person will make a lot more sense to use and that. So now I'm probably not going to get it on PlayStation 4. I'm going to wait for it to come out PC, but then I'll probably have to wait again till it goes down to the price that I was probably willing to pay for on PlayStation 4. But at least it will look better, it'll have all the DLC, and it'll have the first-person mode. So that's Final Fantasy 15 coming to PC near you next year. And then finally for Gamescom, but not finally for the ZedKraze show, Shenmue 3 has a new trailer out. And it's quite quickly become a bit of an infamous trailer. Now, obviously, Shenmue has quite a cult following. If you don't know what Shenmue is, it's a game that was originally released on Dreamcast. There was 2 games in that series, and people have been waiting since what probably would have been the late 90s, I guess, for a new Shenmue game. And then I think it was last year, it was kickstarted. Um, Shenmue 3 was kind of bizarre because it was during like maybe the was it during the PlayStation conference at E3 or something like that that they launched a Kickstarter, and that just seemed bizarre. It's like, Sony, why don't you, instead of trying to get people to give like a couple of $1 million out of their pockets, why don't you just give a couple of $1 million if you believe enough to put them on stage and say, hey, we're launching Shenmue 3. So, but anyway, of course, with such a cult following like that, it did get funded by the Kickstarter, and I'm sure Sony have kicked in some money as well. Anyway, so a new trailer, Gamescom, and it wasn't just a rehash of what they'd shown before, but oh boy. So the music sounded amazing. Like, I'm saying this as a person who hasn't played a Shenmue game, but I'm intrigued by this new one, and because it'll be modernized, I might give it a go. And the backgrounds looked really nice. But the characters, oh man, they had really stiff animations. They were like pretty much like robots almost. Like, their facial expressions did not change at all. And their faces in general looked like the whole character design looked like it was exactly. It's like they took the original models from, the late 90s from the Dreamcast and then just up-res them almost. But they didn't actually adjust the style in any sort of way, because, I mean, you could get away. It has quite a almost anime style, I guess, in a way, look to it. But you probably can get away with that back in those days a bit more because you were dealing with all sort of jaggy sort of looking faces and stuff like that anyway. So that seemed a bit more natural. But, yeah, in 2017 on, current gen consoles and that sort of thing, it looked really out of place. Now, hopefully, just the facial expressions alone will make things look better if they do improve them. But I don't know. I think it's the overall design. Like, the faces just don't look right in general, even without even trying to ignore the fact that the faces were basically not moving throughout the whole trailer. But even like just the animations of when he was kind of like fighting, like, and that sort of thing, it just all felt very stiff. But supposedly this is really an early build, and that, yes, they know that they have to improve the animations. And I mean, hey, Mass Effect Andromeda got released with all its animation problems with faces and stuff like that. So this game is not out yet, but it's probably a lesson in not releasing a trailer, if everything's not quite ready to be shown, because sometimes that can actually be detrimental. Because if someone sees this trailer now, they might think, okay, scratching that off my list, because they might not do the further research to find out, oh, there was an interview later with the director and he said, oh no, the facial animations haven't been done yet, that's why it looks stiff and that sort of thing. Because most people, won't bother to look into that. So they'll just maybe see that trailer and go, oh wow, that looks really crap, and then move on and not bother to look into Shenmue 3 again. So yeah, hopefully they do improve those facial expressions and just animations in general. I feel like it will never probably look absolutely top notch because this is, once again, a Kickstarter game and it's not going to be AAA budget or anything like that. But yeah, color me interested still, because yeah, the music was really nice and the backgrounds were also really nice. So and a lot of the fans said Shenmue isn't about the graphics, it's about the story. So they'd only be concerned if the story's not good. We don't know what the story is going to be like yet, really. Or at least I don't. And yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to be accessible for new players like myself, to be able to just jump in without having played the previous two games, because I don't think that's fair on anyone, because there's only going to be a very small dedicated crew that that have played a game that was like 15, 20 years old sort of thing. So on a very unsuccessful console, the Dreamcast. Not that it's a bad console or anything like that. Many people say it was ahead of its time with its modem and stuff like that, and it's a nice looking console as well. I've got one, and I'll hopefully be streaming some Dreamcast games in future once I get my streaming capture card set up properly. But yeah, so that's Shenmue 3. Yeah, check out the trailer, even if you're not interested in it, to just see these faces. It's quite interesting. Okay, and then finally for the ZedKraze show for tonight, we are wrapping up with talking some QuakeCon, and there's not much that I've got down here from QuakeCon. There's probably more that I maybe missed, but I just didn't really hear much about it really. So and I don't think they're necessarily streaming anything that you can watch or anything if you're not actually at QuakeCon. But yeah, the big news is the release dates for all their VR games that are coming out soon. So you've got first up coming up is Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Skyrim VR coming out on November 17th on PlayStation VR. Then you've got Doom VFR December 1, and that's coming out on both PlayStation VR and also Vive. And then finally, Fallout VR coming out on December 12th on Vive. Now, of course, Doom VFR means you can play it on either PC or PlayStation 4. Skyrim you can only play on PlayStation 4 VR, and Fallout 4 VR you can only play on Vive. Now, I wish it was the other way around because I'm a massive Fallout fan. Skyrim I've actually only put 3 hours in. So in a way, Skyrim VR, I'm saying this as a person that has PlayStation VR, but I don't have a Vive. Skyrim VR may give me the perfect excuse to try and put some hours into Skyrim finally. But the problem is for me is it's a 5-year-old game. It's a fantasy game that I'm not really into, sort of thing. And it looks like it's going to be coming out at retail price, like, you know, like full price, like a normal AAA title. I think it should have been about half that price. If it was about half that price, I'd be jumping on it day one, no doubt. But at full price, yeah, unless I can find a good bargain on, which sometimes happens when stores are competing with each other. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to pick up Skyrim VR straight away. But the good news for Fallout fans like myself that want to be in that world of the Commonwealth in VR, and you might not have a Vive, but you do have a PlayStation 4 VR or an Oculus Rift, they Bethesda have mentioned, even though Vive are promoting like as if it's exclusive, Bethesda have since clarified that they are hoping to release it on, well, I think the term was they're hoping to have Fallout 4 VR on as many platforms as possible. Yeah, at first I thought it was that because Fallout 4 is more recent and no doubt more graphic intensive and that than Skyrim, that it was going to be harder to get the right frame rate and detail that you need to run it in VR on a PlayStation 4 versus what you could run on a PC, because obviously you can run higher specs. And I mean, maybe the PlayStation 4 Pro can run it right, but maybe not the original PlayStation 4. But you can't do that with PlayStations. The point of the PlayStation 4 Pro was not to say that there's only PlayStation 4 exclusive games on there. So if they did release it on PlayStation VR, they would have to get it running on PlayStation 4 standard. Now, of course, the PlayStation, I mean, Fallout 4 does work on PlayStation 4, but to get it working on VR needs a lot more processing power, or needs to scale back, you know, the graphics and so forth. Because remember, you're broadcasting 2 screens at the same time, running at least 90 frames per second. And, you know, most games on PlayStation 3 are struggling to, you know, get 30 frames per second with one 1080p screen going or something like that. So on PlayStation 4 Pro, I'm sure it would do all right, but PlayStation Original, it might be a bit more of a technical challenge. So I imagine Fallout 4 VR will hopefully come out on PlayStation VR eventually, and that I will buy day one, even if it is full price, but hopefully not. Please be nice. But yeah, because I just want to be in that world, and I'm not racing to get a Vive anytime soon. So yeah, but also for Oculus owners, I mean, from what I've heard, I think if it works on Vive, then you can use Steam VR and use on Oculus, but there are some differences between the two, in particular the motion controls. So I don't know if a game's been optimized for the Vive, if the motion controls will work as well with the motion controllers of the Oculus Rift. Even though, arguably, from what people have said, the Oculus Rift touch controllers are much better than the Vive ones, even though that it took them about another 6 or 12 months for them to release it. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see on that, won't we? But there's also the factor that the parent company of Bethesda, ZeniMax, is actually suing Oculus right now because one of their former employees, they accuse of actually stealing information for Oculus from their own VR research or something like that. Anyway, it's been a long legal battle. And yeah, so that could be also a reason why you're not seeing any of these listed as Oculus Rift games. But hopefully we'll see them on all platforms, because there's nothing that's going to shoot VR more so in the foot if we can't have all these games on all the platforms. I mean, we've got these main 3 headsets that are out, but there's also, Acer and Asus and all these other tech companies that are releasing headsets and that. And VR will never take off unless we have a lot more of a standard and a lot more sharing of the content rather than exclusives to specific VR platforms, because yeah, it's already a niche audience as it is. There's only a certain amount of people that have a capable PC, a capable console, and a headset. So the last thing we need is exclusive, so you're even narrowing down the audience even smaller. So yeah, might pick up Skyrim VR. I don't think I'm going to pick up Doom VFR. But I will definitely pick up Fallout VR if it does end up coming out on PlayStation 4 next year, perhaps, or something like that. So yeah, that's the release dates. This November 7th for Skyrim VR, December 1st for Doom VFR, and Fallout VR December 12th. So it's pretty much every 2 weeks there's major AAA titles coming out on VR, and maybe it's the kick we need, because I feel like there hasn't been much that's come out on PlayStation 4 VR this year, so I've been a bit disappointed. Mine's been gathering dust since Batman Arkham VR that I played back in December, I think it was. So I haven't actually used it, I don't think, pretty much all this year. Oh, no. I did play... No, Battlefront. Star Wars Battlefront. I played the Star Wars X-Wing VR mission on that, which made me feel sick, which was the first time I really felt sick on a VR game. So I wanted to play that from start to finish in one hit, but I actually had to stop that halfway through because, I was needing a bucket almost, sort of thing there, and that was probably the worst I've experienced. Which is going to be interesting with these Bethesda games, how it's going to feel in those. But keep in mind that most of them seem to be using a teleporting system, much like Batman Arkham VR. Now, I think that worked really well in Batman Arkham VR because the game was built for that, and it felt really good to just kind of jump to different things. I mean, ideally you would be moving, but, it felt fine for that. But for these games that are already based on action-based stuff where you got combat and that, because, Batman Arkham VR was pretty much like a point-and-click adventure almost, while Skyrim, Fallout, and Doom are all action-based RPGs sort of thing. Well, not Doom an RPG, but obviously very action-based FPS. But Doom has actually been changed up for this quite a lot, while Skyrim and Fallout are supposed to be basically the full games as is. But with these new controls and teleporting methods in that. I've heard that Fallout VR at least might have some sort of motion moving sort of thing, but that might be to do with the controls that the Vive has, because once again, PlayStation VR, the Move controllers, for example, don't have analog sticks on them, so you can't just move along like that. So in ways, because of the crappy controls for PlayStation VR, that weren't custom made for it, they kind of just cheaped out and used their old unpopular controllers from PlayStation 3 era, instead of making specific ones for it, which I think was in many ways a bad mistake. They could at least modified it, made it like, Move controller version 2 sort of thing. I think that limits in many ways the motion movement you can have in games for PlayStation VR, which is a real shame. But still, you know, the idea of being in Fallout world or even Skyrim world quite excites me. So, and Batman Arkham VR is still probably the best VR experience I've had. So if it's anything like that, then I'm sure it's going to be great. So yeah, that wraps up the first episode of the ZedKraze show. As I said, this is not going to be a huge long stream. It's just going to be wrapping up the news for the week. This show is clocked in about 1 hour 15 almost, which is not too bad. I'm probably aiming for, I'd probably want it to be around an hour. This was obviously a big week for game news, and obviously this could change up a bit depending on what's actually on the show. If I'm just talking news directly to you, or if we have more interaction from the audience live, or if we actually introduce other elements such as, you know, interviewing maybe some indie game devs, or, you know, talking to other streamers, or, you know, there's all sorts of things that could add content to this show. But I was keen to start this off this week with Gamescom on, and I'm happy I have done that. So I hope you have enjoyed the ZedKraze show. I might just put up the socials up there. So as you can see, I always go the wrong way, don't I? ZedKraze.com is the website for ZedKraze, and there will be an Uncharted The Lost Legacy review coming up on there very soon. As soon as this show's over, I'm actually going to go back to playing some of that Uncharted Lost Legacy. I've only played about 2 hours of it so far, but I'll hopefully complete it over the weekend and have a review for you next week. Twitch.tv/ZedKraze. If you're watching this on YouTube archived as a vodcast, then yeah, if you want to watch the live stream, that's where you want to be. And I've just realized I haven't actually cut that over. There we go. So yeah, make sure you follow ZedKraze on Twitch, and yeah, Friday nights 7 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time is usually when this show will happen. But yeah, if you want to interact with the show, if you want to ask questions, if you want to have your input like Kid Chaos did tonight, then make sure you jump on the live stream so you can jump in the chat and say hi during the show. And of course, we've got the socials. There's twitter.com/ZedKraze and facebook.com/ZedKraze. Those are always good places to go to get a warning at least 15 minutes before the show. All my normal live streams, which I do on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights, where I'm stream live games. Yeah, I normally give a warning on those social media things, but I also, well, when I'm streaming, I also let you know when I'm posting up new reviews and stuff on ZedKraze.com on there. So worth following on Facebook or Twitter if those are your social media poisons of choice. So that's it for tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, hopefully we'll keep improving it. And yeah, I think it's going to be good. It's going to be good to be doing something a bit different. And yeah, it's going to be good to be doing something that's yeah, different to my other streams. Anyway, so that's about it for tonight's ZedKraze show. And as always, as I say on my normal streams, until next time, check ya.